Hi Snappers! In this video we're going to learn a little bit more about sprites and their costumes. So let's start. I have just an empty project right here. I'm going to click on my sprite. It has its standard costume. And remember, I can go to the scripts tab to write code for the behavior of this sprite. And I can also go to the costumes tag and bring in new costumes. You can think of the costumes as the wardrobe for this sprite, and it can have more than one. So let's start by going to the costumes that come with Snap. I'm going to come up to the File menu and pick Costumes near the bottom. Now there's so many costumes in here, and I'm going to show you something cool about these costumes. Notice for some of the sprites, there are multiple costumes. I'm going to look at Avery down here, and there's Avery A, Avery B, but then there's Avery walking A, walking B, walking C, and walking D. I'm going to bring all of those costumes in, and we'll see as we move along in another video that we can use this to really animate a sprite and make it look like they're walking across the screen. All right, so let me import these costumes. I'm going to do A, B, C, and D, and then cancel. And in fact, watch Avery on the screen as I click on the different costumes. It kind of looks like Avery is walking. In this project you're working on now, you're probably going to have more than one sprite, so it's important to name them something meaningful. I'm going to come up here, and right now next to Avery it just says Sprite. I'm going to rename this to say Avery, or you could have it Girl, whatever you want it, so that it's easy to find this sprite. Wonderful. Let's now look at some different scripts, some different blocks that are really helpful to use when you're thinking about how your sprite looks. I'm going to go into scripts and think of scripts as different behavior. Right now I'm just going to bring over different blocks. I'm not going to attach them to any any hat blocks. Right now they're just going to be free standing and just a way for us to experiment. I'm going to go to the looks menu because looks has everything, the looks palette right here. So one thing we can do, I'm going to come down and I can set the size. Let's say I want my sprite to be larger or smaller. I can change the percentage. So let's say I want my sprite to be smaller. I might change the percentage to be something like 60%. To get a free floating block to run, I'm just going to click on it. And you can see the sprite gets smaller. Maybe I can be like, oh, actually I want her to be really big. I might set it to 120%. Click on the block and it gets bigger. So this is a great way if you want to change the size of your sprite. I'm going to bring her back. I don't know, I'm going to make her 80% of her normal size. Okay. Another really useful set of blocks is sometimes you want your sprite to be visible and other times you don't. So there's this great pair, show and hide. If I click on hide, the sprite is not visible. If I click on show, the sprite is visible. There's also this really cool little variable that if I click on it, it will tell me, is the sprite shown or not? If I click on it now, it says true, it is shown. But if I hide my sprite, if I click on shown again, it says false. So that might be something that can be helpful later on. Another great block that can be helpful is switch costume. So remember Avery had these different costumes, A, B, C, and D, the different walking ones. I have A selected right now, but there might be a certain time in my code, in my scripts, where I want her costume to be maybe costume B. Let's show her. And now I'm going to click on switch costume and you can see it switches. Or maybe I want to switch it back to A. I can switch costume. Another very related block is next costume. If I click on this, it's just going to go through the costumes in order. A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. And you can start to anticipate a little bit later in this project, we'll be doing animations. And can you imagine if we were having this, it could make it look like your sprite is walking. So some of the sprites that you can get, some of the costumes you can get from Snap are wonderful because they're kind of set up for you to do this animation. All right, next thing I want to show you is how to make a new sprite because your project, you're going to probably have multiple sprites. You can come down into the sprite corral and click on the turtle icon, and that makes a new sprite. This time, instead of getting my costume from the Snap library, I'm going to import an image. This is an image. I think I searched for cartoon cat and I saved it. So now I'm going to upload it. I'm going to come up to the file menu. And this thing that looks like a piece of paper, that's called the file menu. It's a little old fashioned. And I'm going to come down to import. I'm going to bring something into Snap. Oh, it's already to my directory. I'm going to bring in my running cat, number 1. Oh, isn't that cute? Open that. And so now I'm going to bring this sprite over here a little bit. Now I have a little running cat that is chasing after Avery. Same thing, since this is a new sprite, I'm going to come up and rename this to cat. So that sprite has a name. And you can see when you look down in your sprite corral, it's helpful to know what sprites are what. And same thing, I might be like, oh, my cat's a little bit big. So I'm going to come into scripts and maybe go to looks and change the size. Maybe I want this cat to be about 50% of the size, and then click on that block. And there it is. All right, so in this video, what I wanted to help you see is you can create multiple sprites. You can give your sprites wardrobes. Maybe in the case of the cat, I just had one costume that I just want that sprite to always have. But in the case of Avery, I brought in a sequence of sprites that I might think, oh, later on I might get this to be animation so it looks like she's walking. Also, there's lots of blocks just to experiment with, particularly in the looks palette right now. And I'll go back to Avery and we look at her scripts. You can always just bring the blocks over and just experiment with them. Anytime you click on them, they are running and you can see what they do. So it's a great way just to experiment with what's available in Snap. Later on, when we start to do some animation or getting things hooked up to the hat blocks, you'll be putting these in real scripts. All right, I hope this was helpful. And of course, ask me questions if you would like any more information or have any questions. All right, see y'all. Bye.